Guys, so this is going to be an update with a series of updates within it. What I'm starting here is the mountain on the back corner of the layout. You'll remember these two bridges. My original plan was to have a tunnel here. I've thrown that idea to the wind because I think having the mountain in here will look a lot better, and also I won't have to worry about retrieving cars that might derail inside. So what I've done, as you can see, is I've got some real rock in here. Nothing like the real thing. I just kind of, I picked this up when I was doing the other side of the layout here on the hill. I just gathered a whole bunch of rocks, and so what I've done is I've taken what I've gotten left and I've put it in here, just jigsaw puzzle fashion. I may do a little bit of rearranging yet, but that's pretty much where it's going to be. And I'm just getting ready to put plaster cloth on top of this. I've got some blocks of styrofoam, as you can see in the back. That's mainly just there for support, so I don't have to use so much paper. But that's the general shape of the mountain. Obviously, once I get the plaster cloth on, it'll weigh that down a bit, so it'll change shape somewhat. But so I'm just going to get started on this. Sorry I'm not going to film, but I'll come back, record. I'll come back as I have various sections finished and show you what that looks like. Alright, so I guess this is the early September update, and what you're looking at now is the partially completed mountain in the corner. This video segment here is being shot, I guess, about 7 days after the initial shot. So I've cleaned the layout room up quite a bit, and I'm getting ready to go ahead and put the final touches on the mountain over here. So what I'm doing is, I'll show you this in a minute. I've got my cell phone hooked into my tripod, and I'll show you how I did that in just a minute. But what I thought I would do is just use the cell phone for shooting video, because it does a much higher resolution than the camera that I've got. So I'm just going to test it out and see what you guys think. As you can see, the real rocks are in there now, and because the plaster cloth has solidified, they're in there. They're not going to move. I don't have any other kind of adhesive on those rocks at all, other than just being surrounded by the cloth. So I've got some places in here that I need to fill in yet, on either side of this rock, and right back in this area here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that tonight, and then we'll come back and take a look. And also, I've got the layout pretty clean right now, so I'm going to go ahead and, once I finish this, give you a tour of the layout room so you can see what it looks like when it's cleaned up. 90% of the track is down. I have one other piece that I want to do, which I'll be showing in a few minutes. And so let's just go ahead and let me finish this, and then we'll get on to some other new products that I found and some other progress updates on the layout. So be back shortly. Okay, so I thought I'd go ahead and show you how easy it is to use plaster cloth. What I have here are these rolls. I guess they're about 4 inches in diameter, and I think there's 15 feet on a roll, so it'll do quite a bit. What you're seeing finished here is about one roll. So whatever that is, I don't know, it looks like it was 3 feet across the bottom, maybe 2 feet high. I wouldn't say it's 6 square feet, but you math wizards out there can calculate what that would be. So 4 inches wide, 15 feet long. That's the square footage that you would get. So to use this, you just dip it, and I've got this bucket of water here. You just dip it in there for a second, bring it up, and make sure that the side that has the plaster on it is on the outside when you lay it down. And what I'm going to do here is just lay it up next to this one rock here that I need to lock into the hillside. So you just roughly place the cloth where you want it. Then I take a 2-inch paintbrush and just wet it, and then just kind of push the plaster cloth into the hillside. What you can do with the brush, since it's wet, is you can sort of paint the cloth onto the rocks and onto the surrounding area. And once you get it stuck, I mean, it dries fairly quickly. So, you know, as you can see, I'm just kind of brushing it. And then I didn't actually have this 2-inch brush here when I did the rest of the mountain. But what you can do with this, as the plaster gets increasingly liquid, you can just brush the top of the plaster cloth, and it fills in the majority of the holes. So it makes a much nicer surface for painting. So I don't want to mess with that too much because I don't want to pull it away from the rock face here. But and I'm not sure how well that's shown up on the video, but most of the plaster fills in the gaps and the holes, and it makes the paint cover better. So I'll go ahead and do the other side here. I'm just going to use some short strips. And it's basically just take a pair of scissors and cut it. The plaster is always on the outside of the roll, so when you dip it in, if you're careful about what side you have facing up, you can then just place it onto your hillside here, you know. And again, I just want to surround these rocks so they kind of lock in. So I'm gonna stuff this back in here a bit, and it's better to use a brush because your hands will kind of stick sometimes, and then it just pulls that cloth back out of the way. But you can just take your brush and kind of pound the plaster cloth back into the gaps here, and just paint it onto the, I got a big old bristle there, but you can just kind of paint it right onto the rock. The last bit of scenery work for tonight is putting in this hill between the two main lines, and you can see I've got the plaster cloth on there right now. There's a few holes at the edges, but that won't be seen once it's completely covered with scenery. So this is the area that I was going to have a tunnel in, but I decided against it. Just decided to do a rock cut, so you can kind of see how the train will disappear behind the cut here, if I can get over here without killing myself, and go right on up the hill here. I've got to clean those tracks off yet. But what I did on the front, again, this is just wadded up paper, newsprint, underneath the plaster to keep Derek, if you're watching, close your eyes now, this is going to kill you. The paper will tend to expand a little bit after you crumpled it up. You know, it just kind of tends to want to flatten out. So what I did to keep the paper back far enough from the main line is I set a brick in here when I put the back layer and top layer on, and I let that harden first. And I set a brick there to hold the paper. It didn't have the plaster on it at that point, just to hold it back away from the edge of the main line so I wouldn't have any issues with cars hitting the side of the hill. So I put the bricks there just to hold, as I said for the 14th time, hold the paper back away, and then I was able to drape plaster cloth down the front here. And you can see there's a pretty good gap there between the track and the hill, so I should be fine. But I don't know. You know, it looks pretty good right now. Obviously, once it gets painted and some ground cover on, it'll look better. I left a flat spot way up at the top here. I was thinking about maybe sticking a log cabin up there. You know, just overlooking the edge, just to have something up there. Oh, one other thing too, you can see how the plaster cloth is up against the wall. What that does, it ties the structure of the mountain to the wall this way. And you can see down here, I've done the same thing. It's painted green, but it's up on the wall. And once you get ground cover and trees and so forth in there, you'll never know that it's attached to the wall. What that does, again, it just solidifies the whole structure. Alright, appreciate everyone watching. Try and get another update out soon. Maybe we'll have some paint and trees and who knows what. So come on back next week and take a look.